Hi everyone, in leadership module number 3, we're really going to start focusing on a couple of things. One is evidence-based practice in the realm of population health. We're going to be looking at that collaborative piece that is so crucial as far as elevating population health, and we're also going to be looking at crisis mitigation. So when we're looking at those three separate concepts, they're actually very intertwined. And we're starting out, this is actually a model from the County Health Rankings and Roadmaps, and it shows basically the thought process as far as looking very broad as far as the stakeholders who actually impact health. And if you look at the diagram, there's very few health organizations involved. So there are many factors outside of healthcare that impacts health and can make a difference in health. So just kind of keep that as a contextual type understanding when looking at the type of programming that is out there and the need to really reach far as making those collaborative relationships and building that those strong partnerships to actually elevate outcomes. The other thing is, of course, crisis mitigation, and again, that's truly population health principles in action as far as taking all facets of services and integrating them to do recovery or on the front side of that, actually mitigate some of the risks that are involved when there are all hazards going on, whether it would be natural or man-made. So those are just some concepts to really think about as we move forward. So let's take a look at the contents of our module. So part of our discussion boards, in one of the discussion boards, we're actually going to do some very unique work, and hopefully you'll find it to be enjoyable as well. But we're going to devise some messaging to actually practice being a public information officer, so to speak. As leaders, it's very important to be very skilled in making very clear and concise messaging. And crisis management is one of those realms where it's so critical for the well-being of those that you serve. And the same principles also hold true as far as very clear and concise speech with those that you serve in the workplace as well. So we're going to be practicing those skills in one of our discussion boards. And we're really going to dive into the evidence to help you to be successful as you complete your population-based project that you'll be doing in the next module. So another factor that I really want to emphasize and have you really take a look at and ponder a bit, very often when there are health issues, our first line of action is to do education. And the Frieden model really helps us to conceptualize the true impact of those activities as far as counseling and education are actually, in the context of things as far as population health, have minimal impact. When we're looking at making an impact at the population level, it's really important to tease back and look at other factors that have a strong bearing on outcomes. And you can see that at the very bottom are the base of the triangle are socioeconomic factors. And many of those factors are the trigger for health disparities or poor outcomes when we look at poverty, lack of education, lack of housing, those types of things. And if you just take a step back and think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, how can we really focus on what we need to do to keep ourselves healthier if we don't have food, we don't have a roof over our heads, those types of things. So it's really important to look at what the baseline needs are of folks and understand how those factors really play into health choices, or lack thereof, actually. Many folks really don't have a choice when they have to prioritize having food. So just in examining the Frieden model, you can look and see at, and it correlates with the information that's on the county health rankings and roadmaps as well. So looking at how the hierarchy, so to speak, is shown, we're seeing that the actual health interventions actually have minimal impact versus some of the other factors to really consider. So we're really looking at those social determinants of health, basically, when we're looking at this particular model, when we're looking at making that impact at the level of population health. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to let me know. We, of course, have our readings in Cup, Curley, and Vitale, looking at chapters 5, 7, and 8. And we're also going to take a look at, IHI has actually expanded their triple aim to include the quadruple aim. And again, this is something that we really need to look at as leaders in healthcare, because we also need to look at our providers' work life, meaning our employees and what their work life is like, because it really impacts the outcomes for those that they serve within healthcare facilities. So again, this is moving beyond that triple aim, and we're moving into the quadruple aim, and the framework is focusing on improving joy at work. And that in itself is something really strong that we need to consider as leaders, as far as taking care of those who take care of others. Of course, when we're looking at evidence-based practice, I have quite a few resources for you that you can use for your programming for your population-based project presentation, but there are some resources listed, many resources as a matter of fact, that will help you as you're moving through this particular module as well. Okay, so here we are in the discussion board, and for our first discussion, or our forum for this particular module, we're going to be looking at some of the evidence-based processes, resources that are available to you to start exploring what is very appropriate for what you've identified as the need in your epidemiology at-risk assessment. So there are some resources listed here, and then we're also going to look at the community collaboration and looking at the continuum piece and looking broader than we typically examine when we're looking at things that impact health. So that's the first forum in our module, and our second one is all about, as I alluded to earlier, all hazards preparedness, and we're really going to focus on the communication piece, because that is really what leaders, one of the roles that they tend to take in the case of an emergency is that of the spokesperson. So that's what we're going to focus on in this module, and you get to share what type of message that you formulate in the discussion board. You get to share that with your fellow classmates. So I hope you find this to be a good experience and a little bit outside of the box of what we've done before. But again, this is a very crucial piece, because it's not time to learn how to speak in a very direct manner, in a very concise manner at the time of an emergency. This really needs to be a practice and a skill that is developed to provide that very crucial messaging if an emergency should occur. So that's the overview for this module. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. Thank you so much.